Hey guys, and welcome to night 30 of Big Brother 23, and welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. All right, night 30. Night 30 is a very special day for me. During my season, night 30 is the night that I was blindside evicted. I fought my way back into the house with a battle back and won HOH all in the span of just a few hours. So day 30 is always exciting for me. And I think that this season, day 30 is going to be a special night as well. We've got a new HOH. I'm expecting a little more activity, a little less predictability, a lot more conflict this week, and I'm ready for every bit of it. So welcome to night 30 of Big Brother 23. So first of all, as I mentioned, we had a lot happen last night. I'm going to try to squeeze it all into this recap. We did have, as expected, Whitney went home, voted out over Hannah. Unanimous vote. Can't even say that was a surprise either. So Whitney goes home. The team twist is over, as also was expected. We have an endurance competition, which was expected. It was the wall, which I wasn't sure what type it was going to be, but it was the iconic wall. Love seeing that competition take place. And we have a new HOH, not necessarily completely expected, but not a huge surprise either. With an endurance type competition, the new HOH is Derek X. Yeah, congratulations, Derek. I'm so happy to see it. This guy, he was a target week one. He's developed relationships. Everyone in the house seems to like him so much now. He's HOH. He's got some power, and I'm so excited for the week coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, nothing against Alyssa and Xavier, who were the other two people up on the wall with Derek X. They're fine and all that, but I don't think their HOHs would have been nearly as entertaining or as exciting as I think we're going to see with Derek X's. So I'm ready for it. All right, we've got and the other thing to talk about, and this was a bit of a surprise. The team twist is over. We don't have a new twist of duos, which Claire and a few others had mentioned. Now we don't have that. But apparently America does have a bit of a say in the new twist, whatever it's going to be. We'll find out. But get your fingers ready or your phones ready to make some calls and some votes because, I don't know, do you still call in things like that? I guess it's all online nowadays. But anyway, we're going to get to have a say on what happens going forward, and that's always a little fun as well. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the conversations because there were a lot of them that took place last night after the HOH victory was completed. And we're going to try to cover not all of them, but we'll cover the key ones. Now, here's the thing before I do that. We did have, as part of the HOH competition, Derek X made promises to Alyssa and Xavier that they were both safe. They were going on the block if they would drop and let him win. Alyssa, did she drop? Did she finally just run out of steam and fall? I don't know, but she still extracted a promise that she wouldn't see the block if Derek X won. Xavier got a promise as well. Probably not a big deal. Neither one of them really seemed to be the top threat from a Derek X HOH this week, but they still got something out of it before they fell. All right, so with that said, let's talk a little bit about some of the conversations. We've got Alyssa talking to Derek X and Hannah, and she's saying, yeah, I was up there making these deals with you, Derek, and all of that, but it's just me trying to cover up the alliance that we have. Now, remember, just last week, Alyssa brokered a final four of Hannah, Derek X, and Alyssa, and Christian said, I will make it to the very end. But, do you really trust that or not? Well, it turns out that alliance may not be quite as solid. I don't think anyone necessarily thought that was a solid alliance. It was just done out of convenience last week. In fact, later, Derek X tells Hannah, says, yeah, well, that was just done to protect you from the vote that was going on. But Alyssa said, yeah, I had to make it look like I was really worried up there, so I was trying to make deals and everything. But I know with our final four alliance, it wasn't really necessary. Well, Alyssa probably is safe, but that final four alliance, Christian is most definitely a target this week. So Alyssa may not realize that just yet. I think she's a little bit oblivious to just how in danger, not her, but her no-match showmatch partner may be this week. But she's talking about that. Derek X, there was a lot of talk all evening long about how hard the competition was, how long people lasted, what parts of their body were hurting, which was the toughest part and everything. Every season you have that. And they spent a lot of time talking about it. The most fun part of the whole thing, though, was watching Derek X recreating himself up on the wall. He went over by the in-out door to the studio, there between the living room and the kitchen, and he's leaning up against it, and he's shaking and acting all like he can barely say. It was pretty good. It was a lot of fun watching it. Derek F is, did I say Derek X? I hope I said Derek F was the one recreating him. I don't know if he's bitter or upset or he's just talking about it, but he said, yeah, I didn't even last as long. I don't think I lasted as long as Jessica Milagros for my season. Said, that girl, she was up there longer than I was. I was just glad I made it through Julie's instructions. Well, yeah, Derek F fell a lot quicker than Jessica did. We all talk about Jessica during my season and her, and she falls on. But here's the thing, Jessica actually stayed up on that wall for an extended period of time. She did pretty well. Derek F, not so much. But we weren't really expecting Derek F to win this HOH, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Does it? Does it? No, it doesn't. All right, we've got that. Derek F has whispered to Hannah that she's in charge now. She's tight with Derek X. Says you're in charge and you're going to protect us this week. And I think he's talking about the Cookout Alliance. And yeah, she probably will. I don't know. I was gonna say they're not in trouble. The Cookout Alliance is not in trouble. Derek F is being a part of the former Jokers team, a little more at risk, but I think he'll be good for this week, and we'll talk about that. We've got Tiffany and Claire and Sarah Beth talking. They think that Christian is the likely target, and they're kind of correct. And Sarah Beth is saying, "Oh, the three of us just made jury. I think we're all on jury now." Well, not that certain just yet for Sarah Beth. Yes, it looks like Christian may be a primary target this week. Sarah Beth is certainly a backup if things don't go quite right, if Christian wins veto, things like that. So Sarah Beth is thinking she's made it to jury. She may want to pull back just a little bit, and she's got to fight a little harder than maybe she's thinking right now in order to make sure that she makes it onto that jury. Now, last week, over just the last few days, Derek F was really worried about being targeted, about going home. He's just been very concerned, paranoid. I don't know, use the term that you want, but very nervous about the way things are going, feeling like he's lost, feeling like he can't trust anyone. He said Oz is the only person he can trust. So Derek F was very worried. He's still worried. He's talking to Britini, and he is saying, I don't know, they could put us up. They could put us up, and things happen, and we could easily go home, Britini. And he's right. I mean, they're being talked about as targets. But he is hoping that Derek X is going to target the Kings before he comes after the Jokers. And so he's holding out that little bit of ray of hope that truly, unless they're just accessory damage, that truly it's going to be the Kings that Derek X is going after. But it's gonna be a tough week for the former Jokers. I've got to get used to saying former teams. It's going to be a tough week for them, but a lot of it's going to depend on what happens to the veto that's taking place this morning. All right, we've got Christian talking to Alyssa, and he's saying, look, I've always been worried about a Derek X HOH. I was going after him the first week. He was going after me. And now I really need to play in this veto, and I really need to win this veto. So he's worried about it. He understands what's going on a little bit. Alyssa, though, is saying there's no way that Derek X is going after you this week. We've gotten this alliance. He's got other targets. He'll probably go after the Joker. He's not going after you, Christian. Well, Christian may be closer to the truth than Alyssa is on this particular conversation. Alyssa is thinking that Derek F and Britini are likely targets instead. And they may be, but more is a pawn than anything else. So Alyssa's not nearly as nervous as Christian is. We've got Kyland and Hannah talking. Kyland is suggesting that if Derek, and it's a pretty interesting thought, and it shows Kyland's really been thinking this thing through. Kyland is saying, look, Derek X, if you want to backdoor a King, and he's talking about Christian or Alyssa. Obviously, he doesn't want Sarah Beth backdoor, and he doesn't want Xavier backdoor. So he's talking about Christian or Alyssa. He's saying, if you want to backdoor one of those Kings, you really should put up two Jokers on the block right now, because there's a lot less chance that Christian's going to get picked to compete in the veto competition if it's two Jokers up there. If you put another King up there and they get picked, they very well may select Christian to play in the veto competition. So put two Jokers up there, it drastically decreases the chances that Christian's going to somehow end up in this veto competition, somehow win it. So he's pushing for jokers, i.e. Brittany and Derek F. Maybe Ozza, but pushing for them to go up as opposed to anyone else. Now remember that Kylan is really trying to protect Sarah Beth, who just happens to be on the Kings or the former Kings team. So he does not want a situation where potentially Sarah Beth would be put up alongside Christian or even one of the other jokers. And then something happens, Sarah Beth ends up stuck on the block and she goes home. So Kylan's trying to protect his interest as well. We've got have-nots pick for the week. It's going to be the Kings, which we had already talked about, or I think in last day or two. It seemed like the Kings probably kind of their turn, and so they have volunteered to be Kings. Now, we did go from 4 have-nots. Now we're only having 3 per week as the number of people in the house have reduced. And that's good news for Sarah Beth because it's her birthday coming up, I think, on Thursday. So in honor of her birthday, she's not part of the have-nots. So we've got Alyssa, Christian, and Xavier are the 3 have-nots for the week. Yeah, no, that's kind of interesting. We know Christian and Alyssa are tight with each other. It's going to be tough not having the HOH room and the HOH bed. And poor Xavier. I'm sure the last thing he really wants to do is have to share a room with those 2 for the next week. But in the have-not room by themselves, it may pull the 3 of them together a little bit tighter. I'm curious to see how Xavier responds to being in the same room for the next week with Christian and Alyssa. Does that pull them together, or does he avoid staying in that room as much as possible if starting to look like those 2 are targets? I don't know. We'll find out. Tiffany, Derek X, and Hannah are talking. Tiffany seems to be pushing a backdoor of Christian as a preferred strategy right now. I'm a little bit surprised that she has shifted from Sarah Beth to Christian. And truly, Christian and Tiffany, not tight, but certainly they've talked some. But it seems like Tiffany's pushing a little bit more to backdoor him and save Sarah Beth for somewhere down the road. Now, Sarah Beth's still on her radar, and she still mentions her name, but it seems like Christian may be the preferred target right now. Hannah has suggested that, hey, we ought to put up Sarah Beth and Brittany and then backdoor Christian. This whole idea of Sarah Beth trying to get with Hannah and work things out and start working closer together. Nah, they tried that right before the eviction ceremony yesterday, and obviously that didn't go anywhere because Sarah Beth's still saying that put Hannah up. So she's talking about she's talking about Sarah Beth and Brittany going up, backdoor Christian. Derek X is a little worried. He says, yeah, I'm okay sending Christian out, but if I do that, that means that there's only going to be 4 guys on jury. And he doesn't say it, but if he's in final 2, that means there's only 3 guys on that jury and 6 women when it comes to the vote. So he's saying I'm a little bit worried that there's only going to be 4 guys in there. And Hannah says, oh, you shouldn't worry about that. Yeah, no big deal. Don't worry about that, Derek X. Well, of course, she's going to say that, right? But she's saying it's not that important a deal. After Hannah leaves, Derek X is saying to Hannah, I think it's Tiffany that left. After Tiffany leaves, Derek X is saying, look, I'm going to stay loyal to the Royal Flush, and I'm going to put up 2 jokers. I'm not putting up Sarah Beth because she's part of the Royal Flush. I'm going to put up 2 jokers. Well, big mistake because Hannah did not know about the Royal Flush, and Hannah is not part of the Royal Flush. So she immediately says, yeah, tell me about this Royal Flush, Derek X. And Tiffany actually had used the term as well during the conversation, and Hannah just stayed quiet. She didn't want to acknowledge that she didn't know about it. But as soon as Tiffany's out the door, Derek mentions the term again. She said, all right, you got to tell me what's this Royal Flush going on. So, yeah, a bit of a mistake. So Derek X is explaining who the Royal Flush is, former queens, former kings, and himself pulled in. And he's saying again, he said, yeah, we've got that. And Hannah's saying, well, then why did you form that final 4th, Christian and Alyssa? You were already with them anyway. He says, that is just to protect you, Hannah, for the vote last week, just to make you a little bit tighter with them, just in case there was something going on. Later, we've got Tiffany also talking to Hannah and kind of explaining it as well. And she's saying, look, we got kings and queens, and then we brought Derek X in because he was winning competitions. We needed one more of the number. Nothing against you, Hannah. We just brought him in because he'd been winning the competitions. And Hannah said, well, whose idea was this? Was this Christian's or Liz? Who came up with it? And Tiffany's saying, I don't remember. It just kind of happened. Well, I don't really remember who it was. She thinks forbidden. She comes up because I think it actually may have been kind of pushed from the background from Tiffany. And you know how that works. Tiffany kind of does some whispering, let other people take ownership of it, think it's their idea. But I think Tiffany may have been behind getting the queens and the kings together. But she thinks about it for a little bit, and she tells Hannah, she says, as I think about it, I think Xavier and Kylan, they both won HOH. It's kind of the HOH winner for the queens, the HOH winner for the kings, and they got together and talked, and of course we're all willing to go along with it. But she's trying to back off claiming any ownership of it whatsoever. Tiffany's doing a good job of saying, look, it's just kings and queens, and Derek, because he won, you're good, Hannah. It's not anything to do with you. But Hannah is saying, yeah, okay, I'm okay with that. But Christian and Alyssa, they really don't trust me. Working with them is going to be a little difficult. And I got to say, it's tough knowing, not that I would know because I was never a part of a big alliance, but it's tough being part of a big alliance, knowing that you're the person that maybe kind of got brought in at the very last second, that you may not be 100% an official member. Even if people are acting as though you are, knowing that you're probably the lowest on the pecking order. So Hannah probably is happy that Derek X has a protection of this group and that she's hopefully going to be a little tight with him as well. But she's got to be a little bit nervous as well. Hannah, I mean, not only is she not in the Royal Flush officially, but she's also kind of the associate member of the Cookout Alliance. 5 people, 6 people in the Cookout. He still varies, depends on who you talk to. So Hannah is barely in these 2 big alliances. That's not good news going forward, but at least she's got the protections now. We've got Derek X saying that he wants to go to the end with her, Hannah, Tiffany, Kylan, and Claire. That's basically the detective alliance with the addition of Hannah. So that's a final 5, a group of 5, and I could see that going maybe not to the final 5. But I can see them going a ways further down the road. Hannah is warning, saying, look, I'm fine with Kylan being part of this alliance and all of that, but you got to know he's not going to support anything like that if Sarah Beth isn't part of it as well. His loyalty is going to be with Sarah Beth as long as she's in the house. So again, we're still seeing Hannah and Sarah Beth kind of positioning each other as targets and trying to throw them under the bus a little bit. Sarah Beth is talking, speaking of, Sarah Beth is talking to Derek X a little bit later. And she's saying that Britini had said that Derek X was a threat, that she was really worried about Derek X. He's a huge threat in the house. Well, Sarah Beth's doing it again. Sarah Beth is trying to create other targets bigger than herself by throwing Britini under the bus. And it seems to have worked, as we're going to talk about in just a second. Tiffany is alone and talking to the cameras. Love when they talk to the cameras directly. She's saying that she's with Hannah. She really likes working with Hannah, but also that Tiffany and Kylan and Xavier are true alliances within the Royal Flush. But the rest of the Royal Flush, they're just numbers to protect her and her tighter partners, that they can go whenever. They're just there for the numbers. So again, Tiffany, Kylan, and Xavier, and potentially Hannah and Tiffany are kind of the tight ones. She's thinking. She's saying that she's hoping that since the King team took out 2 of Derek X's teammates, that she's hoping that he's very willing to go after the Kings, as in Sarah Beth or Christian. Go after one of them. Go after the Kings this week, as opposed to trying to do anything crazy and going after anyone else. And I think she's right. Derek X finally gets his room about 12:30. He's laughing. He got all kinds of stuff. He got ribeye steaks. Was that an option? How come no one told me that was an option? But he got ribeye steaks, a lot of stuff. Pictures, everything else. He got a letter from his parents, and he's laughing because it starts off saying, congratulations on winning HOH. And he said, they don't even know what HOH is. Now, I have a feeling his parents are watching more. They never watched it all. I have a feeling they're keeping track of how Derek X is doing this game. And they may know a few terms, but he may be right. They may have been coached a little bit in what's important and things. So he's laughing, saying, oh, obviously they had a little help with this letter because they don't have a clue what this stuff is. We do have a little bit later, Claire and Kylan, their Hannah, are still in the HOH room talking to Derek X. Always interesting to see who stays in the HOH room the longest. Derek X is saying that it's tough because he's basically going to be deciding who doesn't go to jury. Well, he's going to be putting 2 people up that may not go, but everyone else gets to vote and decide one way or the other on who's not going. But he feels the pressure for the HOH. Kylan's kind of giving them some advice on how to handle one-on-ones and things like that. And then later he tells Derek X to not tell a lot of people about what you're going to do. Keep that information tight. Just don't tell them. Don't tell them Someone's trying to go. So don't give away a lot of information. I think that's very good advice. Tiffany, later in the HOH all alone, she outlasted everyone else. She came back up when everyone was gone, and she's talking to Derek X. Hey, Tiffany, I just love her game. She's talking to Derek X. She's going over the royal flush slip up, talking to him about it, and just saying, I'm sorry, just one of those things. Derek X is telling her though, saying, look, Sarah Beth said Britini is wanting to target, had wanted to target me and Hannah. And Tiffany's joining right in and saying, well, look, Sarah Beth and Britini, they're tight. Yeah, they're tight, Derek X. You got to watch out for both of them. So with that, and with what Derek X had already heard from Sarah Beth, he takes the bait. He says, Britini is definitely going up this week. Britini, poor Britini. She's got another tough week ahead of her. Which means we have a little bit of a tough week ahead of us too. I empathize with Britini, but he said Britini is definitely going up this week. Tiffany says, look, if I get HOH, I'm gunning for Sarah Beth, Britini, and Alyssa. Those are my three big targets, Derek X. And Derek X says that he's still, I don't know if he says it, but Derek X is still talking about and considering Christian as his main target as a backdoor. He's saying it just doesn't make sense to keep him. We've heard in the past that maybe he'd keep him as a bit of a shield, but Tiffany had said, if you're going to keep Christian at this point, when you got a chance to get him out, you better do it only because you want to go to the very end with him. Otherwise, this is your golden opportunity. You better take it, Derek X. Then she follows up and says, but I'm not telling you what to do. This is your show. You make the decision. Don't listen to anything I say. It's all up to you, Derek X. But we have that. Now they do come up with a scenario, and I think we may see that with the nominations today. They finally realize that if Britini and Sarah Beth go up on the block today, then Christian, even if he gets picked for and wins the veto, he wouldn't use it because the threat could be made that if you take one of these two ladies off the block, Alyssa very well could go up in their place. And Alyssa may go home. So they would use that as a threat to keep Christian from changing the nominations. And if Christian doesn't win the veto, well, then there's still the option to pull one of them off to backdoor Christian instead. So they've got a scenario in place. We'll see if it actually is what happens this morning with the nominations. Could be, very well could be. Finally, lights out at around 4 o'clock in the morning, Big Brother time. I assume they went out. That's when lights at the Hogg household went out. But I think they shut down at about that time. And so there you have it, guys. Lots of conversation, trying to squeeze it in as quick as I can. We've got nominations today. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. They were up late last night, 3:30 or so, before Derek X went to bed. We don't have wildcard competitions anymore. We don't have an event taking place in the morning, which, based on my season, without that competition going on, we could easily see nominations occurring very early, 9:30, 10 o'clock Big Brother time. Which means that there's not going to be time for a whole lot more conversations than have already happened. There may be a few people trying to squeeze up into that HOH room very early to get a last little bit of time with Derek X, but for the most part, conversations could be over. So whatever Derek X was playing last night, there's a good chance it's going to take place this morning. All right, guys, I'll have a fantastic what's today? Friday. Y'all have a fantastic Friday. I know I'm going to have a great one. I'm going to be at the Big Brother US versus Canada boxing competition. It's taking place this evening. It's going to be all kinds of fun. But I'll still be paying attention to what's happening inside that house, and I'll be back tomorrow morning to give y'all the latest updates. Until then, y'all have a fantastic Friday. See you in the morning. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. And I love night 30. Bye.